Hey kids, and welcome to Sunday School. Today we have a very interesting story for you. It is the story of Nehemiah. God helps. The verse for today is taken from Psalm 37, verse 3. Trust in the Lord and do what is good. Let's hope you learn the verse well. Before we start our Sunday School, let's get into an action song. Let's get into the story. Now, Nehemiah worked as a trusted cupbearer to King Artaxerxes. You know what a cupbearer is? He used to give the king his wine. Nehemiah used to be a Jew who used to live in a place called Susa until the Babylonians came over and destroyed Jerusalem. Some Jews had actually returned to Jerusalem, but they couldn't rebuild their temple. And people like Nehemiah stayed back in this new empire that was under the Babylonians. Now, one day, Nehemiah was visited by Hanani, who was one of his brothers who lived in Jerusalem. He asked them about the city and about the Jews who were living there. They explained that the walls had been knocked down and the city gates that were on fire had not even been replaced. The Jews had no more protection. When Nehemiah heard these things, he sat down and he cried. For several days he fasted and he prayed. He confessed his sins and the sins of his people. He knew that God had promised that if his people turned back to him and obeyed him, that God would return to them their land. So he asked God if he could speak to the king about that situation. Later on, when Nehemiah was serving wine to the king asked him, "Why do you look so sad?" Nehemiah said, "Why should my face not look sad when Jerusalem is broken and destroyed?" The king asked him, "What do you want?" Then the king gave Nehemiah all that he asked for, because he trusted him and he wanted him to rebuild the new city. He gave him escort and he gave him permission to take wood to build the city gates. Now Nehemiah went on a long journey from Susa to Jerusalem. When he finally arrived, he rested only for 3 days and didn't tell anybody that he was planning to rebuild the city walls. But one night, he secretly went out to look at all the walls. He took a very long ride around the city wall. And soon he had to look at the ruined walls and feel even more sad. At that time, he called a meeting of all the leaders and all those who could do work. "You see, the trouble that we are in and the ruins, we can get rid of this. Come, let's rebuild the walls of Jerusalem so that we will no longer be in disgrace." Nehemiah explained how God was with him and that he had the backing of the king too. So they all decided to start rebuilding the wall. But there were enemies who didn't want the wall to be rebuilt. There was this man, Mr. Sanballat, and another man, Mr. Tobiah. They laughed at Nehemiah. "What are you doing?" they said. "Are you trying to rebel against the king?" But Nehemiah told them that God would give them success and that they are his servants, so when they start rebuilding, the Lord will protect them, and that people like Sanballat and Tobiah have no share in Jerusalem or any to claim it. The most important lesson that we can learn from Nehemiah is that we can pray about everything. Nehemiah believed in watching and working, and then working and praying. Before he set out on his project, he prayed. When he was about to be in trouble, he prayed. When he was going to meet the king, he prayed. What a fabulous example of how to get anything done. Now you may think that you're still a child and that your prayers mean nothing, but they really mean a lot to your Father in heaven. So pray before you start, pray as you go, pray when you're in trouble, pray when you're in a hard place. Just pray about everything. For today's activity, we're going to need a sheet of paper and a sketch pen. Firstly, we're going to fold this sheet in half like this. Now we're going to flip the sheet over like this. And on this sheet, we're going to write the following words in the center. They read, "Trust in the Lord and do good." Psalm 37, verse 3. Make sure this is in the center. Now, we're going to fold the paper like how we folded it in the beginning. And we're going to make a boat. So we're going to first fold it in the middle again like this. Then we will fold it like this from both corners. Then we're going to pull up the flaps, just like how you do it for a normal boat. Now we'll open up the flap. Make sure these edges are put in properly so that they don't cause any problem later on. The next step is to fold it like this on both sides. Here you go, the other side too. Now after you open this side, you can carefully pull out the flaps and you form your boat. Make sure you press it nicely and firmly, because this is very important for the next step. The next thing we're going to do is to open the insides of this boat, only from both sides at the end. And you lay it out like this. From this side to this side, we're going to fold it. It's only half a folding. And we're going to do the same on this side. And we'll fold it down. We're going to do the same for the other side too. This, after folding the flap, is going to make you realize that we are about to form a box shape. Now, do you see the portion where there's the boat's top? We're going to open it a bit and completely try to open up this piece of paper. Now be careful with it so that you don't tear the paper. You're going to get yourself a box like this, and in the middle are the words that you wrote earlier. Trust in the Lord and do good. Now take a brown sketch pen, because we're going to do something very unique. We're going to draw walls. Using your sketch pen, start to draw small lines, 3 of them or 2, and you're going to make brick-like structures. Do this for all sides. This is to teach us that prayer helps us build the walls of protection.